Hi, my name is Carter, and today we're going to show you how to build a no-code Web3 app. In this instance, we're going to mint a token or an NFT using the DropChain plugin and Bubble.io. All right, so if we want to mint an NFT, there's going to be two things we're going to do every single time for each of these sections. The first one is that we're going to set up a button on the front end so that you can click it and then something can happen on the back end. The second thing is we're going to build a workflow that kind of describes each of the pieces to where when I click a button, what happens next. We're going to have to mint something, we're going to have to do this or that. We're going to show you exactly how to do that so that you can implement this in your Bubble app. But the first things first, let's add a button. Edit me. So we're gonna call it mint an NFT. And so when we click it, some NFT is gonna be minted. And we're also gonna add a workflow. So when something is minted, when a button is clicked, we're going to do some stuff. We're going to find the plugin section, and we're going to try to find asset mint, and we're going to make sure we're on the testnet because we're using the testnet to try this out. Let's see. So unfortunately, Bubble is a little bit funky with the way it describes or shows the body. It doesn't show you the full variables, but I know what these variables are, so I can show you kind of how this works. First of all, user1 user ID describes who is going to be doing the minting. And so for our instance, we're going to be using test user1. So copy the user ID from your test accounts table, paste into test user1. You can avoid session token. This is the created asset unit name. So it's kind of like a ticker on stocks. You know, you have like Bitcoin is BTC for crypto, or Ethereum is ETH. This would be our own ticker. And so we could try to do something like NFT, right? Because we're just doing a test NFT. And this is the title. This field is the title. So we'll call it something like Bubble NFT Mint Test. This is the decimals. So if you're minting an NFT, so you can hover over this, you can see it, by the way. I recommend doing that for future reference. That's really helpful. I didn't know you could do that. This is the asset decimals. So for example, an NFT, you cannot split it into chunks, right? The NFT is just one. And so because it's indivisible, this would be 0. But if you were doing something like Bitcoin, you would have 8. You would have, yes, I think it's 8. Well, I know certain tokens have 6. If you only wanted to do it like $1, where it only goes to 10 and 1 cent, you do 2. And then from there, you can kind of customize this how you want. For our example, we're going to do 0 because we don't want to be able to divide the tokens up. And maybe we want to create 10 total assets. So this is going to be the, want it to load. The asset amount int, so saying it needs to be an integer. We're creating 10 of these. And the app ID, you're going to go back to your console and you're going to copy your app ID. And the top here is the URL. So if you have your own Discord or your own website, you're going to put that in here. I'm going to put in dropchain.network, where you can go create a free account here with that link. But for now, it's just our account. And then we're going to do a couple things after that. We're going to verify that this worked successfully. So we're going to create a new thing. Create a new thing, data, create a new thing. We're gonna call it something like DropChain transaction. And so every time you do something on the DropChain network, you're going to be issuing a transaction. Unless you're grabbing information from the blockchain, then you don't have to, you're just reading, so you won't have a transaction. In this instance, we're going to grab a transaction. We're going to have a field that's called transaction ID. And this is something returned from the DropChain plugin. It's going to be a text. And we're going to click the result of step 1's TX ID, transaction ID. And so we're going to make changes to a thing based on the success of the previous workflow. So for example, if something didn't work, we'll catch it here. If it did work, we'll also catch it. And then we're going to show all this information on the front end. You can also do stuff if workflows if something doesn't work, and so you could implement those on your own time after this, but you'll kind of be able to see how this would work. We're going to first grab the result of step 2, which is this new DropChain transaction object, and then we're going to have a field called success. And this success is either going to be yes or no, because it's either going to work or it won't. We're going to create it, and then we're going to say yes only when the result of step 1, transaction ID, is not empty. And what this is saying is basically, if we try to send a transaction through the DropChain plugin to our test network, and it is not empty, e.g. there is a transaction ID item that exists, it means it's successful. Because if it wasn't successful, we're not going to have a transaction ID. It'll say error something else. So we can make sure this is successful if that transaction ID is not empty. And then we're going to right click, copy, and then we're going to paste. We're going to make a new version, but this time it's going to be no. And we're going to change is not empty to is empty. And the reason why that's going to work is because excuse me. The reason why we're going to say it's not successful is because when result of step 1's transaction ID is empty, we'll know that there is no transaction ID there when we try to send a request, which means it didn't work. Because if it was successful, we would have a transaction ID, and we can go look it up on the network with an API call, or we can go onto the Algorand testnet Algo Explorer we show at the top here. And so that's great. And then we're also going to do one more thing so that we can render it on the front end. We're going to change the state of an element. We're going to grab the button mint in NFT. So we're going to change the state of the button. We're going to create a custom state. We're going to call it transaction ID. And the state type will be a text, because we're going to show below the button, hey, this is successful or this is unsuccessful. We're going to also do another state, which is going to be success. We're just going to basically, it's going to be yes or no. And we're basically just going to take the success and the transaction ID from the transaction object, the thing we made in step 2, 3, and 4, and we're going to set it to that. And so result of step 2's transaction ID and then the result of step 2's success. So I'll make sure transaction ID, yep, that's exactly right. And we're great. Now we can start to mess around with the front end, the design section. Computer's freezing up. And so what we've seen here, all right, cool. Now we're going to add some text. And we're going to have two fields here. We're going to have transaction ID, and we're going to have enter and do success. And surprise, surprise, those are the same things we're saving to this button. And so we can insert some dynamic data. We can grab elements, buttons, transaction ID. Then we can also grab the button's success. We're gonna make this big so we can guarantee that it appears. And let's try it out. Hit preview. We have the ability to mint an NFT. Let's click it. you should see this bar at the top loading. And as it goes, I don't think anyone's minted in a while, so it might take a little bit longer. Especially if you've not minted in a long time, it's the first time minting. It may take a little longer, but transaction ID, success, yes, right? So let's go and take a look at this. Let's go to the testnet Algorand Explorer. Bubble NFT mint, exactly what we put there. Here's your NFT. We created it. That's the, URL we put in here. We made 10, there's 0 decimals. And this is exactly what we put in here. So you just minted your first NFT. And with asset IDs, this is your unique asset identifier. So this is your, whenever anyone wants to use this asset on the testnet, when you're on the DropChain network, you'll remint it. This will be unique to the DropChain network testnet when you're trying out your asset. So no matter what going forward, this is the unique number, that 497956163. That's a unique identifier for your NFT that you just minted, for mine at least. And that's it. We have a bunch of additional videos showing you how to send an NFT from one person to another, how to grab the assets that someone owns, and we're also going to build a marketplace using this no-code plugin. If you have any questions, use the Discord link below, join the community, ask other builders, ask me, ask my co-founder any questions you have. We're in there every day trying to help people like you build your first Web3 app and create a free account. console.dropchain.network. Zero cost for you. Get started and ask us questions and start building. Thanks.